It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Ready for the weekend to start.
Okay.
You got a whole week to go. You're
I know.
in trouble.
It's Sunday night, and I'm now ready for the weekend to start.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, man.
One of them days, huh?
One of them months. And I got nothing. I can't hold a candle to Tom's issues, so, you know. I can't really complain too much.
Yeah.
I hope everybody out there is doing. Excuse me. Easy for me to say. Hope everybody's been doing okay. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy? Obviously, some fun stuff with Mikey.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to rant too much about anything like that.
No, that's what Liz is for.
I'll let Liz take over on that
take
one.
My job.
Don't worry, I'm cool. It's cool. It's fine. So just a long, crappy week at work. That's all. But no, one thing I did manage to do, and I am enjoying going back. Finally, I do this in cycles. I will watch one type of show for a while and then go and switch on to something else. And so right now I'm kind of on a documentary kick. The one I am watching now is called Motorhead: The Bronze Era. I for some reason there's like a little special place in my heart for music documentaries. I'm probably just weird. But
well, that too.
Yeah, these things may or may not be related. But yeah, it is a really, I mean, okay, if nothing else, a documentary about, and I've seen others before, documentaries about Motorhead. Motorhead is they're just insane. They are, make a list of every stereotypical rock and roll band thing you can think of, and they've done it 50 million times. It's just crazy. They're just wild, and they're a lot of fun to just sort of see what the kind of crap they did and stuff they got away with and all of that. This actually does a good job of kind of balancing this particular documentary. It's from 2013. And what they call the Bronze Era was the time that they were with Bronze Records, which was like their first 6 albums or so. I don't remember the exact number, but so this is like the early years of Motorhead, and this like an almost 2-hour documentary on about an 8-year period of time for them. And so they do a nice job of balancing the crazy shit that they were up to all the time and actually talking about the music, which is nice.
That's cool.
It's easy to get lost in the craziness with Motorhead and not actually look at the music, but there's they're making some interesting points about the music, which I'm really enjoying. But it's a fun documentary. It's on Amazon Prime is where I'm watching it.
Cool.
That is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Rant time with Liz.
Well, I did get some reading done, but I can't talk about it because, yeah. But interesting, something crazy happened today. If you're in our little area, I guess today about 1 o'clock, the sky was beautiful. It was hot outside. It was all blue. And by 1:15, it was like completely pitch black. The wind started blowing. Well, in my backyard, I love my backyard. It's all surrounded by trees because there's a park that's right up against my backyard. So it's kind of like a nature's privacy fence. Well,
Not so much anymore.
Right. One of those 40, 50-foot trees decided to come down.
Ooh, no.
Which, yeah, very lucky though, because had it have gone over more, it would have hit my shed. And I've told you guys about my shed. I've got probably about $10,000 worth of comic book stuff out there. So it was like, ooh, good save. But not only that, the fence that it fell over on top of, it kind of went in between two bracers. So there's like minimal damage there too.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, but this all happened like in 15 minutes. We had sirens going, trees are blowing all over the place.
Oh, it came quick, yeah.
Very quick. And it was over as quick as it came, Yep. I think it dropped 2 inches of rain.
By 2:30, it was sunshiny again.
Yep. Well, before all of this happened and before I knew it was about to get crazy, I had ordered Brandon a pizza. And, so I'm watching the little tracker thing and it's like, oh, your pizza's on the way. Well, that's about the time the sky goes black. And I'm thinking, there's no way. We've got all kinds of sirens going off. The rain's pouring. There's no way this girl, they're going to come with pizza. So I'm sitting there checking out this tree that's fallen over in my backyard. And I see these little lights pull up. This little itty-bitty girl comes running from a car with my pizza over her head.
In the middle of the storm.
In the middle of the storm. I mean, talk about feeling like an asshole. That's what I told her. I said, oh, my God, get in here. But very sweet girl. Like I said, I was very surprised and shocked they came. But pizza and breadsticks could have waited.
Right. That's what I'm thinking is, holy cow, wait 20 minutes. It'll be over.
It'll
Deliver
be
the
over.
damn pizza. It's fine.
Yeah. And anybody who gets upset with that, oh, man, then they don't need to be eating the pizza. I have another place they can stick it.
Dang.
You didn't look at her and say, you were 10 minutes late. I'm sorry, I can't
I
pay the full price.
I should have said, this is wet. I need another one. Which, I mean, the pizza wasn't hot, but hey.
They so often aren't anyway. I mean,
right. That it even came. I mean, I went and grabbed her extra cash out of my purse just for showing up. It was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yes, that's what you're supposed to do when people go out of their way to do stuff for you. You tip them.
But in my head, I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm that customer today. But I swear, it was like perfectly sunny when I ordered the pizza.
Yeah, right.
Sure it was.
Right,
I
whatever.
saw one of those that waits for an ice storm, and I think I want pizza tonight, So, yeah, I was so surprised. So
It is amazing how the mindset of, it's looking really bad out there. Well, let's just stay in. We'll make someone else bring us food.
yeah, we didn't want to drive, but we'll make the teenagers.
Yeah.
Okay, first what we're going to do is we're going to go to the grocery and we're going to buy all the milk and bread and bring it home. And then we're going to order pizza.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want to cook.
Yeah. Now, see, I just didn't want to cook tonight. It wasn't because the weather was bad.
Oh, that makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was not about bad weather. It was just generalized laziness.
Mm.
But yeah, so if anybody needs any firewood, hit me up.
Yeah, I bet you're gonna have a bunch of that coming soon.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe even a leftover slice of pizza. Who knows?
Right. Well, and the last time we had to put this much stuff out on the curb, they kind of griped at us. So I may be spreading it out over all the neighbors' lawns.
Let them gripe. They didn't have to.
Well, you know what? There's going to be a lot of griping because you're not the only one that had trees fall over or branches, that kind of stuff. Because we lost a couple of branches from here. So, but you know what? That's their job.
Right.
Across the street, they had a tree fall on power lines, and they had no power. So I was very lucky. I still had lights.
It could be a lot worse because this weather incident made national news because a crane fell over.
Oh yeah, downtown.
Downtown, and someone lost their life, and several people were injured because it was an apartment complex it fell on.
Oh damn.
Yeah. Well,
So
I think it was Channel 4, the weather guy was like, for all of you guys saying you didn't know this was coming, yes, you did. You know, I'm calling BS. I'm not here to make friends. But, you know, they told us there was a 20% chance of rain. 20%. Not the whole freaking sky's going to open up and knock your trees down.
Well, you know, 20% chance of rain means that there's only an 80% chance that there won't be rain.
Right.
So that means that
usually,
there's a chance of rain. That means it could happen. And it's friggin' June in Texas. I mean, North Texas. So if it's going to rain, guess what? It's going to hit hard. That's the way the weather pattern works here.
But here lately, they've been so wrong.
They've been cautious because this has been such a wet year so far.
Yeah.
I mean, when there's a drought, they know better than to say that there's going to be any chance of rain. So the fact that they're saying it's 20% every day, that's something.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's something that should be taken seriously.
But it was quick. I mean, I got the notice on my phone 1 minute, and the next minute, like I said, there's a tree down. And it was crazy because, like I said, in about 30 minutes, we had 2 inches of rain drop. But this tree fell because right before this came in, the winds, got crazy. And then the tree blew down, knocked the fence down. But at the same time, it took my screen door and slammed it shut. So my little dog, who hates, the rain anyways, went and hid. And he's just now coming out from hiding. So I didn't really expect there to be a tree. I thought maybe it was the back door. I mean, I knew it was loud. And then you see this tree. I have a huge backyard, and it's almost all the way across my yard. So kind of freaky.
Yeah, a little bit.
Was there a woman on a bicycle?
That's what my son said. Watch out for a house. You don't want it to fall on you.
Oh, he said this to you?
To me. Yeah. I'd be like, you're crazy. I'd be the bitch stealing the shoes.
And he's still alive?
He's just like his dad.
Amazingly, he is still alive.
Yeah, no kidding. You brought him into this world. You can take him out.
Yep, and make another one just like it.
No, I'm just going to make him move that tree.
All right, there you go. Fair enough.
My passive-aggressive way of getting back, Now, I'm the kind of person that you come at me with something, and it's 5 minutes later, it's oh, yeah?
Yeah, all of the best comebacks in the world come to you 5 minutes later, right?
Right.
Most punchlines.
Yeah.
I should have said.
Yep.
Right. Say it again.
Yeah. I got my comeback now.
Remember what you said to me? No.
But I did learn that when the chainsaw's out, not to start singing, I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. They didn't find it funny.
Too bad. It is funny.
Yeah. I think I even got a little bit of Jackal with the chainsaw song in there. They didn't like that one either. So yeah, that's been my evening. Hauling trees.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, I can't top that. I know that.
You don't want to top that one. Jeez.
No.
Well, you can try.
Try to tell us something. Shit.
Something.
You don't have to top it.
I was at the movie theater, and they had to shut down the movie because of the rain, and it had knocked out the projector, so...
Oh, wow.
Yikes. They get it going again, or they give you your money back?
No, they got it going again.
Oh.
Only they didn't even miss anything because they backed up the film a few frames before it conked, so everybody was happy.
Yay.
Well, what did you see?
I went to see Dark Phoenix.
Oh.
Oh, do we have an opinion?
Yeah, but we can't talk about that on radio.
Well, it's not radio, so it's okay to talk about.
What the hell? What the hell are we doing here if we can't talk about that? I mean, come on.
So wait, I didn't get the list of things not to talk about today.
You don't have to spoiler. You don't have to spoil it, but I mean, did you
Yeah.
like it or not? That's all.
I really did not like it.
Mm.
I thought that they could have done something different.
See, I was curious with the trailer that they showed, if maybe that was the best of the movie, like they sometimes do.
You expect them to do something different? It's called Dark Phoenix. We kind of know what's supposed to happen. So, I mean, come on.
All right, it's a 30-year-old story. It's not like we're going to get surprises here. But
True.
Unless they change that 30-year-old story.
oh, which they always do
Yeah.
to some degree.
And they've dealt with this topic before. How many times has Jean Grey become Dark Phoenix?
Yeah.
And I'm including cartoons.
Oh, well,
It's
yeah,
just
good
a
point.
hell of a lot.
Yeah, so three, as far as I can think of right off the top of my head, maybe more. Because they obviously did.
Did you say 33 off the top
No,
of your
he
head?
said three.
Three.
He said three.
Okay. I was like, damn.
Active.
He's got a really big head.
I don't even know if I can think my name that many times.
Wow.
That was quick.
Three letters.
The animated series, and then obviously X-Men 3, and then now this one. So there may be more. But those are the ones I can think of on the top of my head.
Not to be a dick, but plus the comic.
Well, true,
Yeah.
but it's based off the comics, so I mean, yeah.
Huh. Well, that's too bad. I had a lot of hope for that one.
It's just my opinion, so don't take mine as guarantee.
Yeah.
And remember, it's Marvel too. So
Okay, I'll still go waste my money, but
Well, there's a chance you might not agree with him. So
yeah.
and that's okay if you disagree with them. It's all right.
Yeah, we learned that last week.
Yeah, we
Yes.
did. And I still have my head and everything.
Wow.
Who'd have thunk it?
Right now.
We'll try to aim better next time.
Well, for me, most of the week was getting prepared for today's episode, and then something personal had happened, so I'm kind of going to leave it at that. It was not good, but we'll move on. Let's talk about this week's episode. Oh, I guess we need to talk about the meetup. The meetup was last night. It was a little light, but it was. Everybody had fun. Those who didn't get a chance to come, we'll do it again in July. I haven't had a chance to set up the new event. And for those who are new to the podcast, what we do is with us in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we do a meet and gab on the second Saturday of the month at 7 p.m. And where we've been meeting is Wing City, which is located at 1456 Beltline Road, Suite 120 in Garland, Texas. And the zip is 75044. So if you're in an area, feel free to come on in. We're usually there about 2-3 hours. Come meet us. And the floor is open. Whatever you want to talk about, geek related. Les and I were talking a lot of sports last night because we were watching Adrian Beltre's number being retired. So
Cool.
there was a lot of Adrian Beltre talk last night. But it's always a blast. It's always interesting to hear the conversations that are going on. So yes, we'll have one in July. I can get the date up here real quick.
It'll
We're
be
looking
the
at
13th.
Yep, July 13th. I'll have something on the website. You can check out the events tab on the website, which is www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. And if you're following us on Facebook, I'll have a Facebook event set up here in the not too distant future. So keep apprised of that. Okay. For this week, we have a special treat for you. We did an interview with Jason Inman, who is the co-host of Geek History Lesson. Nice little podcast. So highly recommend you check it out. If you're longtime listeners to the show, you've heard us talk a lot about a miniseries that came out about a year ago called Jupiter Jet from Action Lab Entertainment. He is the co-creator with his wife, Ashley Robinson, who you might remember was on with us in our first year to talk about the Kickstarter. And we'll put a link in the show notes. It was episode 47, so you can go listen to that. But Jason was on to talk about his new book, which is coming out June 18th, entitled Super Soldiers, A Salute to the Comic Book Heroes and Villains Who Fought for Their Country. And without any further ado, here's that interview with Jason. And we are here with Jason Inman, who's with us to talk about his new book, Super Soldiers, A Salute to the Comic Book Heroes and Villains Who Fought for Their Country, which will be coming out June 18th from Mango Publishing. He's also the host of Geek History Podcast. And if you're a long-time listener, you've heard the title Jupiter Jet. It's one of our favorite books. He was the co-creator of Jupiter Jet. So thank you, Jason, for being on with us.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's always a pleasure to join another fellow geeky podcast. And anybody that likes Jupiter Jet is a real ace in my book.
Yay! Well, it was a great book. It was a fun book.
That was the whole goal.
Yeah. I know Les has gone out of his way to get those titles into especially young girls' hands and say, hey, if you're interested in reading, here's a book for you to check out. And the response has been rather positive, so congratulations.
Oh, thank you. That's amazing. Yeah. Any young kid that says they love Jupiter Jet is just it's a pleasure. It just makes writing and working on the book worth it.
Well, it was a blast, and Super Soldiers was a great read. I wasn't sure what to expect, but when I first started in the first chapter with Captain America, I was thinking, okay, this is going to be an interesting read, and I do love the parallels that you were doing with your own time, because you were a veteran of Operation Iraqi Freedom. And first of all, thank you for your service.
Yes,
you're welcome.
You.
So how did the idea for Super Soldiers come about?
You know, I always wanted to do a nonfiction book for a while now, and I wasn't quite certain about which subject I was going to tackle. I've actually been working on a Superman nonfiction book for like the last 4 years. And it's funny, when I originally reached out to Mango Publishing about doing a nonfiction book, and I pitched them the Superman book, they were like, we don't think this is the right year for Superman. What else do you have? And I had this other idea. It wasn't quite developed into Super Soldiers in the full way. And I sent them a sentence back, an email that said, how about a book where each chapter examines military superheroes and determines whether or not they're a good soldier? And they immediately were like, oh, we love it. That's great. Can you have a first draft by December? And this was in August of last year.
Oh, wow.
And in the creative world, as you learn, when a publishing company says, can you write it by then? You always say, yes, I can.
Yep, say yes, and then you can figure out how to do it later.
Mm-hmm.
Not much later, because that's not very many months.
Oh, exactly. Yes, it was many long nights like that. But yeah, like I've always noticed that there was a correlation sort of between the military and comic books, and maybe it's the idea that both of these, things in our world are people answering a higher calling, strapping up their boots and doing a thing that many people in their worlds won't do. But yeah, there's a lot of crossover, and more so than you think there would be.
Oh yeah, after taking a look at the list of not only the chapters that you went into detail, but the list of characters, you said, oh well, there's also these heroes and villains as well. That was a pretty impressive list. Some of these, I had forgotten about, like Nuke from Daredevil. But I do appreciate that you actually added Isaiah Bradley. Thank you. Because the publisher who put out that book seems to have forgotten him.
I agree. I've actually said to many people that Isaiah is... People have asked me who do I think is the best one? Like, who is the best soldier in the book? Who's the best service member? And I keep saying Isaiah Bradley, simply for the fact that he had so many times where he could have given up, and he had so many times where he could have said, screw you, America, I'm done, because, you're not treating me right because I'm an African American. And he still did his duty, and he still was a patriotic American. And that's why I think he's probably the best service member in the entire book.
Yeah.
And I was also, it's funny, because when I first looked at the book and saw the chapters, I saw Beetle Bailey. I'm like, okay, this is kind of interesting. It's like one of these things is not like the other. But when I read the chapter, I'm going, oh, it fits. No, it fits in great. It does.
Yeah. I mean, we that's the secret of Beetle Bailey, is that Beetle Bailey is weirdly the most accurate representation of service members. Because we all don't like our superior officers, and we all would rather sleep and have a nap by the tree than actually do the mission. And also just to clarify, I know Beetle Bailey is a comic strip, and I know my book is about comic book heroes, but in the early 1960s, they collected the Beetle Bailey strips into a monthly comic that was called Beetle Bailey Comics, so he counts.
That's true.
Yeah.
I take that back. But yeah, I'm just...
Oh, no, I wasn't saying specifically you. It's fine.
No. Yeah, I understand.
It's a technicality we will embrace.
Yes, that's right.
So Thomas said that when reading the book, it was Captain America where he got hooked. But I have to admit, for me, it was the Captain Marvel chapter.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I was just like, okay, Captain America, yeah, he's a good soldier. Okay, Gravedigger, yeah, interesting character, but turned out to be a good soldier. But when you started getting critical about Captain Marvel, who is extraordinarily popular right now,
mm-hmm.
That I found interesting, and that's kind of what hooked me in.
Yeah, they're not every person in this book do I give a positive review to, and Captain Marvel is one of those soldiers, or one of those airmen, that I knocked down a few pegs, because when you examine her comic book storylines, and I don't know whether this is an intentional choice by the writers or whether this is the writers not doing their research, Captain Marvel doesn't really act according to the Air Force credo. Like, she doesn't really operate like an airman. She doesn't really think like an airman. She's very kind of now this is kind of the case in the movie too. She's a little bullheaded, which is fine for her character. It's what makes her interesting. But it's a little strange, because in the comic books, Carol Danvers is a colonel, and she actually outranks Captain America. And you don't get to be a colonel in the Air Force if you're crazy and reckless and bullheaded. You become a colonel because you're a true blue Air Force. You bleed blue, and you know how the Air Force works, and you're a great leader. But everything in Carol's stories kind of show that she's not really a great leader, and she kind of tends to do things by herself instead of like forming a team, which is what an Air Force colonel would do. Like an Air Force colonel would always be like, okay, who's my squad? Where you guys at? Where's my wingman? Like they would always form teams. And Carol's always been like, nah, I can do it. And that's a little contrary to her Air Force training.
Well, and oddly, I think it's kind of, in a way, part of what makes her a good superhero. Because
100%. And she's a very fascinating character, and she becomes very interesting when they pair her up more recently with Alpha Flight. They give her a military unit to command, and also they do that in the Ultimates as well. Like I find that that's when she becomes very interesting, is when she like is given again, she's put in charge, because again, she outranks Captain America. like that's hard to ignore for me. Also, it's interesting that for her superhero name, she decided to demote herself. Like, why isn't she Colonel Marvel?
I wondered about that. That seems a little strange. I don't know.
I think it's more for trademark purposes than anything else, but yeah.
Yeah, 100%. But I want to give Carol her promotion. I want her to have the rank.
Right, if she earned the rank, she should have it, right.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree.
Jason and I enjoyed the 2 Green Lantern chapters.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
And in seeing the differences between the two, and you venturing into those differences, and I thought that was really strong.
Thanks. I was a little worried at first about letting 2 Green Lanterns take over this book. But it is interesting. I appreciate that there's because there's a big difference between the two of them, especially since the John Stewart service in the Marines is a retcon. And it's a retcon because of Justice League Unlimited, which I think is a very interesting perspective. And now has become his most dominating trait. And that was one of the funnest parts of the book, was like coming up with little scenarios or examining John Stewart from the aspect of, well, how would Marine John Stewart react to this, to how would Architect John Stewart react to this? And then Hal Jordan, of course, being the bullish flyboy who just flies through anything because he wants to impress his dad. They're very, very different, and especially when you examine both towards like what they're doing currently in the comic books, it makes sense that Hal would sort of be off on his own, like doing these weird alien adventures. And then it also makes sense at the same time that John Stewart is who they would put in charge of the Green Lantern Corps, if he's like a true blue Marine.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it was most enjoyable, thoroughly, and liked that stuff.
Thank you. I mean, you guys keep pouring this praise on, man. It's awesome.
I had forgotten that the retcon came from Justice League Unlimited. I remember him being an architect, and I totally forgot that they had switched that over. But I've seen his original, his first appearance. I've read it several times, but I just totally, when I read that, I was like, oh yeah, I had forgotten that they had done that, and it's kind of amazing because those are. It was just kind of an interesting take for them to do that, but it made sense. Like you said, I mean, now he's more of a leader. He's more of a leader than Hal has been or ever will be.
Yeah, and also like when you look at it as a perspective from the animated cartoon and Bruce Timm and Alan Burnett when they were making this, and you look at the team that they picked, like the Hawkgirl and Martian Manhunter and Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman. They're all loners, and they're all loners that don't really like working with partners, with the exception of Batman. And it makes sense to make one of them a military background, because then he could be the character that could train the team, he could be the character that could lead the team. So I understand why they made that change, is to help give that animated team of loners and rebels like sort of a direction.
Right, and it also, it helps build some discipline into their characters as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to briefly talk about the chapter with Flash Thompson, who was a character that I never really cared for because I remember growing up reading the reprints of the early Lee Ditkos and him being the bully, and obviously he's not a character you're supposed to like because he's always picking on Hero. Mm-hmm. But as a growing up and finding about his backstory and then what they have done with him, he was interesting. He became an interesting character. He became more complex. He wasn't just this one note stereotypical bully. He actually became an interesting character. But I remember when I got to the point of you talking about 9/11, and I was floored of what you were going through that day and how you found out about what happened and all that, which is something, it had not dawned on me because, for us, when it happened, we all had somewhat similar reactions and experience and all this, but for someone who's in the military, you obviously had a different reaction because all of a sudden things got real. You're going, oh my God, what's going to happen here?
Yeah, I got to witness martial law take effect in person, which is something very interesting. Concrete barricades at every corner, tanks rolling down the street, and also I joined the military pre 9/11, and I joined a peacetime army. And then when I'm going through my training, it becomes a wartime army, which is a completely different flip. But I will say, I'm really glad that writers like Mark Guggenheim and Dan Slott, when they were doing Brand New Day, decided that, hey, we have Flash Thompson sitting here. He is a dumb bully. But let's, and I assume they were inspired by, I forget the gentleman's name, the very famous football player who left football to sign up with the Army.
Pat Tillman.
Thank you. Yeah, and I know I mentioned him in the book. Pat Tillman, yes. It was a great choice to make Flash Thompson like the Marvel Universe Pat Tillman.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's such a great choice, and it adds so much to Flash's character.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Yeah, it's a great story. It really is.
And reading what you were doing this morning, I'm like, I don't think that's something. I don't want to be down on the ground trying to find landmines. That's scary.
Yeah. Well, they weren't real, and the trading exercises, they weren't real. But that is a weird skill. I should add that to my resume. I don't have that on my current resume. I'd be like, know how to diffuse a minefield.
There you go. And the fact that the train field was 30 minutes away, but it took you an hour and a half to get back.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think of traffic in that situation, would you?
Yeah, that's right.
It's amazing what can happen.
Yeah, those bus rides were always longer than they always felt longer than they should be. Every single one of them.
Well, I'm sure you're sitting there in full kit on what's basically a school bus, which it barely enough to fit my middle schooler for the most part. So I imagine it's a tight squeeze. So if there's another character that I find interesting in here, it's the Punisher. He's one of those that you almost can't avoid bringing into a book like this.
Yeah, you're exactly right. There's probably three characters that people think about the most when you think about military. I actually think it's Captain America, Beetle Bailey, and the Punisher. I think those are the three you automatically think of. And the Punisher is a rough one because he's sort of been glorified recently by certain military units and certain police units. And I actually don't think he should be glorified. I think he is a problematic representation of the failing of our mental health for our veterans. Yeah. Because Frank just needs some trauma counseling. If Frank had some trauma counseling, he'd be fine. But the problem is that Frank Castle was a person that probably shouldn't have joined the military in the very first place. He was damaged before he ever went in, and then the military just made him worse. And then when the accident with his family happened, it it became even worse. And now he cannot separate combat zones from home soil. Like, the ends justify the means, everything. I can blow up a city block if it means taking out one mob boss, and who cares?
Yeah.
And that's a tough thing to celebrate. It's like, yes, he is morally good, and yes, at the end of the day, he is taking out the morally wrong bad guys, but his methods should never be celebrated. And again, I have a problem because I always think about soldiers and service members are protectors first, and killers second. Like, killing should always be the last thing you do. And Frank seems to jump right to killing first.
Mm-hmm.
And I always think that a soldier is a protector of every country. It doesn't matter what country you're in. A soldier should, first off, protect life. Do everything they can to protect life, whether that is the civilians on the ground or their fellow squad mates. You're protecting those lives, and it should be the very last thing you do until you decide to take a life.
Yeah.
But for Frank Castle, obviously, that's not broken. So I don't think that's something that should be celebrated. I think that's something that should be used to maybe create better mental counseling and mental health for our veterans and for our combat vets. And I actually think the Punisher Season 1 Netflix show does a really good job of that. I think... spoilers for a show that came out 2 years ago. The final scene is him in counseling. Like, he decides to go to his buddy's veteran counseling group. And I thought that was such a genius scene for the finale.
Well, that, and I liked the way there was a scene where I guess it was like a backfire or something inside of the city, and it showed how it really messed with him, and he thought it was gunfire, and it kind of put him back in the same place where he thought he was away from. So I think they handled that very, very well on that series.
Yes, I agree. 100%.
And most people don't realize it's usually just that one trigger for some of our veterans,
Oh, yeah.
Fireworks, dogs, whatever,
Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't take much.
No.
My deal with the Punisher has always kind of been, to me, he seems like the superhero who gives vigilantes a bad name.
It's a good way to put him.
And it all kind of comes back to Batman in its own way. Not that I would call the Punisher a direct ripoff of Batman. I think it's a lot more complicated than that. But I mean, ultimately, they're both vigilantes. They have very different ways of dealing with it, but. And I've kind of always thought the Punisher was like going a little too far. And I think that probably got kind of blown up a little bit in the 90s when the Punisher got really popular again. Or that may have been even for the first time. I'm not sure off the top of my head. But that whole 90s over-the-top mentality. Because honestly, at that point, Batman was kind of a vicious mofo.
Yeah, and remember that Batman got his back broken, and he got replaced by Azrael, who was this guy with giant claws, who is kind of I think, an answer to the Punisher.
Right.
Like, he's extreme Batman.
Yeah.
Wow.
By the way, I want to copyright that right now.
Totally,
And you can hire me to write Extreme Batman at any time they want.
You totally should. That was all yours.
It's a great title, actually.
It kind of is, yeah.
Yeah. I'd read it.
Oh, yeah, totally.
On a personal note, I was talking to Thomas last night. I have a brother that served during the I'm not that old. During the Vietnam War. And he was posted at Camp Leonard Wood, like you were.
Oh, wow.
So that made me open up a little more. I'm going, oh, okay, now I know where this is. I know the layout, things like that, because I had gone to visit him there.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. That's awesome.
That was a
cool.
nice touch. I'm glad that I could relate that way.
That's cool. And thank your brother for his service as well.
Thank you very much. Also, you spoke of Frank Rock, and to me, this is the ultimate soldier. He did not fight anything but Nazis. Although I think they did have an episode where he was crossed over with Batman.
Mm-hmm.
But unlike a lot of other characters, he did not fight aliens or even someone like the Red Skull. It was slogging through their mission, and that's all that was on his mind.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, you point out that he was human.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really happy to see that, because I was reading Sergeant Rock comics back in the 60s during my preteens, and it was fascinating to get that monthly comic, that or Captain Storm or Johnny Cloud or Gunner and Sarge,
mm-hmm.
and just absorb everything. And I even
go ahead,
took it to my dad and said, "Is this real?" And he said, "Yeah, that's how it was."
It's interesting because war comics like that, like Sergeant Rock, they used to be so prevalent, and there used to be so many of them. And I assume it was because of the baby boomers and people coming home from World War II, this ginormous war. But I kind of weirdly think that there should always be a Sergeant Rock comic published at DC. And during some of the research for this book and discovering characters like Gravedigger and Willie Schultz and other characters and an unknown soldier, I just would love to have a sort of war anthology comic always at DC, because and even if they decided to update Sergeant Rock, I think it'd be a hard thing to do, but I would love to see a way to bring that back, because Sergeant Rock is the guy. If you don't understand war, Sergeant Rock's the comic to read, because he's the guy that's just like you, that is deployed.
Very true. Yes.
Yeah. See, I agree. But I think he should be kept in World War II, because I think I think there's a certain flavor there that it's almost integral to it, because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and the reason that, or a lot of the reason I'm sure that war comics were as popular as they were at that time was because honestly, war was in the eyes of the American public was not a bad thing, because we won them.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last 50 years, it's been a lot harder to tell when we're winning wars, because honestly, it's not nearly as black and white as things were able to be back in World War II. And so I think trying to move Sergeant Rock into something like Vietnam or even Iraq or Afghanistan would be difficult. Not to say it shouldn't be attempted or anything, but I think it would be really hard to maintain that.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, I'm going to give you a really stupid pitch here. Okay, it's Sergeant Rock's grandson in Afghanistan, and you call it Third Rock from the Sun.
Might have trouble getting hold of that name. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I was probably, but come on, shout out the money, DC.
Yeah, bring it on. Jeez.
If Parthenis is listening, that story is totally his.
He can take it, because he would totally write it better than I ever would.
If I may, why was there no... I know you limited yourself, but if you went Beetle Bailey, why not Sad Sack?
I kind of only wanted to break that rule once.
Which I understand.
I understand like Sad Sack, but I kind of feel like Beetle Bailey fulfills that role better than Sad Sack, and that Beetle Bailey's more well known. I mean, to be honest with you, there's a lot of heroes and there's a lot of villains that I could have included in this book, and I really had to like decide which ones I wanted to put in and which ones I didn't. And it basically became a fight with, I thought the concept of Beetle Bailey and the audience understanding my points about Beetle Bailey would just be simpler.
I see. And I agree.
But Sad Sack, I mean, he's just a sad sack, like Beetle Bailey's at least a cool dude. Sad Sack is just, he's just kind of depressing.
Beetle Bailey's kind of the one who's actually pulling one off on the man in what he's doing. I mean, which, everybody wants to see that.
Now, is Sad Sack Snafu?
I thought of Private Snafu when you start talking about Sad Sack, but they're different. Snafu was just he was the Warner Brothers, the wartime cartoons.
And didn't Seuss write some of those too?
Yes.
Yeah. And what was it? Silverstein. Shel Silverstein.
I'm not certain about that one.
He did some stuff with the Warner Brothers cartoon department, but I don't know that he did any of the Snafu stuff.
I thought him and Seuss served at the same time. I could be wrong.
They may have, but they may not have been doing the same. The Silversteins, the Silverstein stuff. Say that 5 times real fast. I think came later. I think it came after the war.
Okay.
That seems like more like late 50s, early 60s type stuff to me, if I'm remembering right. Which, who knows? So, did you have a favorite one of these character that you put in here?
Yeah, the one that really pops out to me, it's one that I got a bigger appreciation for doing the research, and that's Captain Atom. Before this book, I kind of didn't really like the character that much, and he was kind of just always used as this foil for Superman, that whenever Superman would act out, the United States government would send in Captain Atom, and he was a total government stooge. But when you go back and read his original 80s series, you learn that he is an Air Force officer who is charged with a crime that he did not commit, and to get out of the crime and to see his family, he agrees to this crazy experiment where he's blasted with energy from an alien ship. And this energy blast knocks him 25 years into the future. So when he appears in the future, his wife has moved on. His wife has married the evil general that he hates. And his daughter is grown up now, and his daughter calls the evil general Dad. And so it's really this case of lost in time, that this man lost his time and doesn't know how to, connect with the world anymore. In kind of a more emotional way than I've ever seen with Captain America. Because Captain America, his time travel journey is like 60 years. So the world is completely foreign to him. Whereas with Captain Atom, he it's just the idea that his family has moved on. But he can basically still knows what television is and radio is and stuff like that. And that's something that I think all service members can relate to, especially me. So so when doing the research, the idea, especially when you get sent overseas, every time you get sent overseas, you think everybody's life back on the home front continues and yours goes on pause.
Yeah.
And you really feel that missing time a lot. And so the fact that there's a superhero out there that basically represents that, I think is pretty powerful.
It is. I have a niece who's in the Air Force, and I guess she's been there about 5 years now. But when she first started, that's what she said. Holidays are really hard. She's like, even when you're in the same country, it seems like it's amplified just because your family's doing things and you can't be there. There's nothing you can do to be there. Even more so across the ocean.
Yeah, I totally understand that.
Yeah, it's a tough sacrifice.
It is.
All right, awesome. So let's change gears a little bit. How's Geek History Lesson going?
Geek History Lesson is going fine. We've crossed our 250th episode. We did our first live show very recently. It was great.
Oh God, I can't imagine. I cannot imagine doing a live show. Oh my God. Man.
It was a lot of fun. I like seeing my university students in real life. It was a lot of fun. I'd like to do more. We don't know if practicality-wise if that's going to be able to be possible. But that's going. It's that I love doing that podcast. It's a lot of fun, and I've said to a lot of people, and people don't believe me, but I said to a lot of people that if you listen to our podcast, Geek History Lesson, there's a lot of the same similar DNA in my book, Super Soldiers, that's in the podcast. Like, they sort of have the same educational, learn a little bit about me, also be funny kind of mode.
Right. I mean, with Super Soldiers, there's a lot of you in that book, and I mean, and because you've got the perspective. I mean, you've been in the military, and you've been through a lot of those things. I mean, obviously not like the radiation testing and super soldier serum and all that stuff, but
yeah, I don't know. Have you?
Well,
I wish.
I figured that would have made it into the book. Come on now.
Everybody's got their
that's
secret.
classified until next year.
Oh yeah, there we go. All right. Well, you're gonna have to let us know. We want the exclusive when that.
Yes,
finally comes out.
I will. When the Freedom of Information Act lets those files go, I'll let you guys know.
There you go.
But yeah, so I can kind of see how it would be very similar. I mean, because for the podcast, you're research. I mean, you're you and you're researching stuff, so you're doing it from your own perspective, and so I kind of can feel where you're coming from there. It's with when we do stuff like that. I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb here and venture to say that you do a lot more intensive research for your show than we do for ours sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know your research methods, but I mean, we spend anywhere between 2 to 5 hours per episode on research. And it just depends on the character. Like, it also depends on how well we know the character. Like, if the character that's the subject of that episode, if I know it pretty well, then I don't have to do a lot of research, or I know exactly where to go, and I probably read a couple stories just to refresh them. But if it's a character I'm not that familiar with, then it's like, well, okay, here we go. Here's a lot of reading.
Mm-hmm. Or it's a movie you've never seen and everybody else has.
Yeah, exactly like that.
You don't know what that feels like, do you, Liz?
No. Or a movie you didn't like and they all love it.
Now, we all ride in that chair occasionally. Come on now.
I'm just waiting for my Tim Burton episode, guys.
Well, I'm sure we'll figure something out in that regard.
Pin me in.
Sometime. Eventually.
Eventually.
We shall see.
In your book, the inclusion of Batwoman, the new version, I think was fascinating. And to give your perspective or your view of the LGBT in the military, I thought was just fascinating as can be. It's brilliant.
Thank you. I think that's the reason why I wanted to include her in the book, because as far as I know, and there could be a new character out there that I don't know, she's the only specifically military character that deals with that, with the LGBTQ issues, and I really thought it was important to say something about that, because especially since that's being dealt with in our current affairs right now, like that is actually an issue. And
it is.
I mean, from my perspective, I have no problem with anybody that wants to serve, because I think it is a calling. I think it's a very important calling, and I think that if you are willing to put your life on your line for your beliefs and your country, for an ideal that is bigger than yourself, then I don't care whether you're a boy, girl, a they, an it, a tree, a dog, a cat, a car. I don't care. I'm ready to call you brother, sister, friend and fellow soldier.
I have to agree with you. Yeah.
You're here. Yeah. Totally agree.
Yep.
But I appreciate that you guys all enjoyed it. Yeah, because that was one of the ones where, especially myself as a married straight white man, I always worry with things like that where I don't know if I have the perspective to comment on those issues. But I couched it in my military experience, and hopefully it came through. Hopefully it worked.
Yeah.
Right, and I think the goal that we have, and I say we, kind of generalizing, but when you're addressing something like that, the plan is to get people thinking about it. Not probably more so than actually trying to sell your own ideas on the subject. So, I mean, I think,
yeah,
and I think that's important. Is people? It's the kind of thing that it would be good for people to think about rather than just making some sort of snap judgment, or more importantly, rather than just trusting random elected officials with. Not to get too political, but
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
ultimately, it's what we do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think you handled it very well.
Thank you.
Yep. And I think you even stated that you weren't part of that group, and kind of, I don't want to step on your toes. This is what I think.
Sure.
So that was
Well,
I like the way you did that.
I felt that in the same way, especially talking about Isaiah Bradley, who is definitely that character, in his service with Captain America is definitely entrenched in matters of his race. And since I am not an African American man, but I have served in the Army, again, it's the same thing where all I could do was offer my perspective and say that characters like Batwoman and Isaiah Bradley, like, I would have been proud to have had in my unit.
Yeah.
Well, I commend you on your book. I think you were very wide with your perspectives. And I applaud you for that.
Yes.
Because it was a read that was wide open, yet something that could be ingested. I can see myself rereading this easily.
Oh wow, that is very high praise. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. And thank you. Like, again, all the kind words. I'm still, at the time of this recording, still at the point where the book has not been released to the public 100%. So to actually talk to people that have read the book is fascinating. And I'm so glad that people aren't like, well, this goes on my burn pile.
Well, we would have tried to tone that down had that been the case, of course.
Okay.
But
Cool. Yeah.
But fortunately, we didn't have to.
No.
All right,
We're
great.
able
Just
to-
the first chapter on the burn pile. Got it.
No, I'm just kidding.
But no, I really appreciate all the kind words, and I'm so glad you all liked it.
I know I'll be buying a few couples for family that served and stuff too. I think they'll find this very interesting.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Yeah, I found it very readable and accessible.
Mm-hmm. Better than the Secret Wars. Oh my God.
Ouch. That one might be too soon, Liz. Come on.
No. Jason, whatever you do not say the name Tom King, please.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, no, we're not going there. We're not going there.
Because we won't be able to shut her up. So-
Okay. All right. Understood.
Yeah, this was a great read. I enjoyed the heck out of it. I wasn't sure what we were getting into, but once I read that first chapter, I'm like, okay, I see where I'm going, and such a great read. Well, bravo! It's a great book, and I hope it does real well. I saw that it's listed as a #1 Amazon bestseller already, so congratulations to that.
Thank you. Yeah. In the comics and graphic novel literary criticism section, and I've seen some of my competition. One of them is this book that I think is amazing. It's like The Secret History of Wonder Woman, and again, the fact that my book ranks higher than that is amazing, because I have that book on my shelf. So,
and all the blurbs that you have in the book. Oh my
Yeah.
God! I mean, Brad Meltzler, Dan Jurgens, Mitch Gerds, Benjamin Percy, Dan Aykroyd. Oh my God! I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, you must have called
Yeah.
in every favor you could on this one. Golly.
Well, I always treat every project that I do as it might be the last project I do. So I always shoot for the moon because I never know if I'm going to be able to do another one or whether people will, want to buy the next one. So yeah, I called in every favor I had, and luckily, I think because most people out there nowadays are supportive of anything that has to do with service members. I think as soon as they heard the subject matter of the book, they were on board. I was very, very surprised. Mr. Aykroyd is like a great big supporter of all veterans and militaries and police and firemen. That's why you see them all in Ghostbusters. That's why they were in the recent Ghostbusters. Like, he makes sure they're in there, that there's always a scene with like the policemen and the firemen and the military, because he respects them so much. And it was very kind of him to take the time out of his day. And I'm sure approving scripts and whatever for the new Ghostbusters movie to take a glance and a read through of my book. So, but I've actually thought about adding that to my resume, that something I wrote was approved by Ghostbuster.
There you go. I would.
Totally.
Yeah.
I totally would.
I would.
Just right under being able to defuse landmines. That would work. or actually above. Actually above. I would actually have that right there.
I might.
But that's me. Well, thank you for being with us, Jason. And once again, congratulations on a great book, and I hope it does real well. And once again, it's called Super Soldiers, a salute to the comic book heroes and villains who fought for their country, from Mango Publishing, and it comes out June 18th.
That's right. Thank you guys so much for having me on your podcast. And I would say it's an absolute pleasure. And to all your listeners, if you've enjoyed any of my random comments and jokes on this podcast, then I think you'll enjoy Super Soldiers. And please go check it out on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and everywhere you can buy books.
And check out Geek History Lesson podcast as well.
Yes, it's everywhere where you put podcasts in your ear holes.
There you go. And on that note, we're going to take a quick break and be back with our weekly picks. And we're back. It is time for our weekly picks, and leading off is... I just had it. Mike.
Kid you not, 60 seconds before that he told us what order we were going.
Well, and then I put the...
and then you set it aside. No, I understand. It's cool. It's cool. Okay, so my first pick. My first pick is a Dynamite book, and I am picking Warlord of Mars Attacks, #1. All right, if that title alone hasn't got your attention, then I don't know what to do with you. But, so yes, crossover time. Dynamite is doing a crossover. I know, shocking. But no, the deal is that they've been doing some really interesting stuff with these crossovers. And this one, I think it's going to be no exception. If nothing else, Jeff Parker's writing the sucker. And Dean Kotz is drawing it. And they've done some interesting stuff. I mean, not all of it has been brilliant, but some of the stuff they've done with the Mars Attacks kind of, I hesitate to use the word franchise, but they've done several series of Mars Attacks stuff, and some of them have been really good. And honestly, John Carter, it seems like an odd fit, but there's got to be an explanation for this. So I'm kind of interested in seeing what in the world they're going to come up with for this.
It's an odd fit, but to me, it's almost a no-brainer too.
In a way, yeah. In a way,
it's almost like, well, why hadn't someone thought of this before? Type thing. Yep. It could be totally bad, but it could, or it could be really, really great, or it could be just nothing but fun.
Right. I mean, and if nothing else, like the original Mars Attacks movie was one of those things that the idea is just absolutely ludicrous, but the movie actually works in its own way. I mean, it wasn't hugely popular, but I mean,
It was a fun movie.
It was a very.
It was.
Yeah, it was crazy fun. And honestly, it was even more so than some other Tim Burton movies. So, you know.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but
Well,
yeah.
That's kind of
more so than some. Not more so. I'm not saying it's his craziest. I'm saying it's crazy. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, should be fun.
I agree. I am next, and for my first choice, I'm going with IDW Publishing, and it's hard for me to say that it's going to be at IDW because for decades it was at Dark Horse, and the title I'm talking about is Usagi Yojimbo, written and illustrated by the great Stan Saki with Tom Luth actually doing colors. This is going to be in color for the first time.
Ooh, that is cool.
It's always been in black and white, but this is the first time. So they're up in the game, and with it coming over to IDW, if you're not familiar with this title, it's the story of Rabbit Ronin who travels and has all these adventures. It's such a great read, great cartoony. It's just pick up the book and read it. You'll enjoy it, and I'm glad to see it back. It seems like it's been gone for a long time. I don't think it's really been gone that long, but it just seems like it has been. So, but this, I highly recommend this one.
Yep, required reading.
I agree.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Les.
For my first choice from Vertigo comes American Carnage number 8. Hopefully you've been following this. This is bullets and blood and everything here. So, somewhat of a mystery, a lot of action, and because of this, you've got FBI, you've got theft. It's just all over the place, but it fits. Brian Edward Hill is the writer, and as a result, to me, this is a top-notch read, and I would say find it, get it, read it.
Cool.
Yep. Totally.
Yep, that's one of Mikey and Maya's favorite writers. So yes, we're going to be having a big thumbs up for that one.
Sounds like we might be in the process of converting Les too.
Yeah, sounds like it. Alrighty, Liz.
All right. Speaking of converting people, my first pick is coming from Black Mass Studios. I've picked this one before. It's called Nobody is in Control. This is the second one. Any of the biggest conspiracies you can ever think of, they've kind of mentioned in these books. The first one, we saw a guy running through the forest, and the guy who lived in this little cabin out in the middle of nowhere thought, that's kind of weird. So he grabs his gun and he follows this guy, and they still haven't told us who's chasing this guy, and they can't stop. He's got to keep going further into the forest. Well, as he's listening to this guy trying to figure out who he is and exactly who is after him, are you just crazy off your rocker, or is there somebody really there? This guy is telling him things, like about light bulbs, not expiring, and so the Russians swooped in and, made it where they only last like 6 months or something. This one, they're going to link subway shooters, cultists, and pornographic video games. What do they have in common? I don't know until we read the second issue.
You have to read the book to
Right?
find out.
So walk into the forest with me. I will have to say, though, as intriguing as this has been, I mean, you got to keep in mind these, some of these are pretty out there conspiracies. I am going to be so mad if this guy, at the end of this series, he finds out he's talking to himself or something. I hate when they do that. Like nobody else can see him, But So I hope it's not going that route, but so far it's been really trippy, and I kind of like those that kind of make you think a little bit. It's kind of like, huh, what if the Russians did influence our light bulbs? You know? So, like I said, if you want to think a little bit and kind of get a little way out there, this is definitely the series to read. I'd like to, I'm really curious where this one's going to go. And it's kind of been a while since I've been that way with a comic book. So definitely pick this one up. Only number 2. You're not that far off. So easy to catch up on.
Yeah, I like the first one too.
I said it was weird though, wasn't it? The only thing that keeps me from thinking that, okay, he's not talking to himself was the helicopter at the end of the first one. But what if they're looking for him, So,
right.
I hope it won't go that way.
Black Mass Studios, they put out some unique stories.
They
Yeah.
do some interesting
Really
stuff.
good stories, but some it's very unique. So, and this sounds like it's definitely right down their alley, and it sounds like a really good book.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike.
Okay, yeah, I have a second pick.
Yeah.
Yay! So my second pick is a Boom Studios book. This is the omnibus of a book called Hexed. This is actually combining. There were kind of 2 series of this story, and so this is combining them both into one volume, which is something like 28 issues total. This is a story written by Michael Allen Nelson, and the 2 artists. The artist on the first series was Emma Rios, and the artist on the second series was Dan Mora. Both of whom are awesome artists. So there you go. And these are some really cool stories. This basically the main character is her nickname is Lucifer, and she is a supernatural thief for hire. And so she goes around stealing artifacts, basically possibly magical stuff, from various places mostly because her mentor is hiding a lot of this stuff away, keeping them out of circulation so that people don't screw with them. Kind of, if you remember Warehouse 13, kind of in that vein a little bit, but this is definitely not that story. This is something all its own, and there's some really cool stuff. I am more familiar with the second series because that's kind of where I discovered it, and I'm looking forward to getting to this because I've been wanting to track down that first one for a long time, but it's been out of print for a while, a couple of years at least. So I'm excited that this is coming out.
Very cool.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and the impressive artists. I mean, Emma Rios from Pretty Deadly and a bunch of other Image titles, and of course Dan Mora, who the Klaus books, and did the first story arc for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So, nice,
good stuff.
Alrighty, I'm up again, and for my second choice, I'm going with from Marvel Comics, an Amazing Spider-Man Epic Collection. Yay, Mikey, an Epic Collection.
You put the second one. Yay.
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 This collects issues 53 through 76. I mean 67. Well, I went dyslexic there. Wow. Spectacular Spider-Man 1 and 2. Marvel Superheroes number 14, and then material from Not Brand X 6 and 11.
Ooh.
So this is right after the whole him quitting, of course, the famous throwing the uniform in the trash can, and of course, obviously becoming a hero again. And of course, he's dealing with Vulture, Mysterio, and a bunch of the old classic villains. And Aunt May has a new friend, Doc Ock. Oh, that's going to be interesting.
Oh, that story, right. Okay.
That story.
Cool.
If you're longtime listeners to this show, you know I love Epic Collections because it's always about 24 stories in chronological order. It's such a great read, and this is actually going to be, I think this is the 4th volume in the series. So great Ramita and Gil, John Ramita Sr. and Gil Kane art. So impressive start.
Sweet.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, Les.
My second choice from Dark Horse Comics is Trout, the Hallowest Knock. This is the story of a couple of people, Giuseppe and Trout, who are kicked out of town because they are blamed by the townfolk as causing the loss of the children of the town. Now, Giuseppe and Trout decide to go to Giuseppe's childhood village, but Trout gets lost along the way, and Giuseppe, who is fighting his brother who meddles in most everything, but Giuseppe must find Trout. Now, what's unusual about this, if this doesn't hit you yet, is there is a shadowy figure trapped in a giant shark egg who is struggling to keep Trout alive. So, this is a 4-issue series. This is going to be weird as hell. So I'm in on this.
Oh, yeah. I like the sound of this.
Mm-hmm.
I like weird, though.
Weird is good.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, Liz.
All right, for my second pick, I'm going with one from Boom Studios. It's Go Go Power Ranger time. It's Forever Rangers #1. This is a special issue, one shot. If you've been keeping up with the regular series, they've kind of dropped it to where Alpha is not the cute little lovable Alpha we fell in love with. He's betrayed the Power Rangers, and now after years of studying how they fight and what they do and who they hang out with, where they live, he's now the bad guy, and he's trying to do away with Zordon. So this book will take all of that and the final showdown between the Power Rangers and Alpha. But one thing they've been teasing us with is a mysterious martial arts guy is going to enter the story. He may or may not be wearing a green shirt, I won't say, but should be pretty interesting. So if you've been keeping up or you want a good story, this will back up a little to tell the story. So definitely check this one out.
Nice.
Yep.
Sounds very good.
Sounds like you're very into it, if nothing else. Holy cow.
Yeah. My kids grew up with Power Rangers, so.
Sweet.
My oldest kind of got me into this line. He's like, you got to read this.
Cool.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
Alrighty. And our honorable mention this week is...
I'm going to say Jason Inman's book, Super
Soldiers. Yep.
Super Soldiers. And the three of us just can't say enough good about this. It was a great read, and like I told him, I'm going to go buy a copy when it becomes available, because it is something I want on the shelf.
Me too.
Yep.
I agree.
Hang on, 3 of us?
That's what I was saying. I think he just cut me out. I liked this one.
No, I left me out.
Oh, okay.
All right, yeah, okay. We'll go with that then.
We'll go with that.
Yeah. I will find a link for this book for sure. Put it in the show notes.
Yep.
Yep.
Totally.
Alrighty. Any special shout-outs this week or mentions? Obviously, thank you, Jason, for being on with us and giving us, allowing us opportunity to read your book and discuss it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It was
awesome.
a cool book. It was a fun conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
And he's more than welcome to join us whenever he has time. It sounds like he doesn't have a lot of it, but
no kidding. Busy guy.
busy guy. Any other special shout-outs or mentions this week?
Don't think so.
No.
I do have one. Special shout-out to Jennifer DeRoss, who reached out to me last week appreciating that we had an episode devoted to Gardner Fox, because she is currently writing a book about the gentleman.
No kidding. That's cool.
Wow.
She is also a contributor to Sirens of Sequential's website. But she's in the process of writing a book about Gardner Fox, and apparently came across her episode and checked it out and thanked us for doing it, because there's not a lot of talk about the accomplishments of Mr. Fox. And she tweeted to me her appreciation, and of course I thanked her and apologized for the rant at the end of the episode. And she's in the process of writing a book, and it should be out this fall. So we'll definitely keep apprised of that, and that's one I would love to read.
Yeah, totally.
So if people are using us for research now, does that make us educational?
No, not
Woohoo,
really.
another rating!
I don't think that
No, probably what not to. If they said it, it's probably not correct.
Oh, God, yeah, no kidding.
And I'm sorry for all the times you guys had to apologize for me.
Oh, nah.
I'm not going to wear no damn cardigan. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, but you'd look good holding a pipe, though. Come on.
I was about to mention the pipe.
You already got the beard thing going, so, you're halfway there.
Head and hair and a pipe.
I can learn you a pipe.
That I can believe, but anyway.
So,
Cool.
I was thinking more Popeye with the corn pop, though.
okay.
I
Just
am
because
what
for
I
that
am.
kind of show.
Yeah. Totally that kind of show.
Well, let's go ahead to our regular shout-outs. First off, Pop Coastal Culture for allowing us to be part of their podcast network. We'll have a link in our show notes so you can check out our fellow podcasts. Definitely go check out some of their work. Appreciate their support as always. As well as the fine folks that make up Potter and Family on Twitter for retweeting our episodes. Definitely go check them out. And the best way to do that is do a search. Hashtag Potter and Family is one word. And just scroll down, and whatever catches your fancy, download that episode and have fun. Thank you guys for your support as always. Manny the Martyr for supplying the music to our podcast. Definitely check out their music. We'll have a link in the show notes as well for their couple of EPs they put out. Definitely some good stuff there. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We do appreciate your support. We would love to hear from you. We want your feedback, questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, observations, whatever. We would love to hear from you. And there are several ways you can do that. You can contact us via email, and our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Or you can go to the website, click on the About Us tab, and there's a contact form that you can fill out there. Or you can contact us through social media. We are on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. Feel free to follow us there. That way you can stay up to date with what's going on with us, especially with our monthly meet and gabs. Or you can follow us on Twitter. It's at Fellowship Geeks. And if you like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, by all means, Mike can be found at Mikey Geek. Liz can be found at LN_Geek. And I can be found at TomTCGeek. And also, we are on MeWe. We're still checking that one out, seeing how things are going there. It's mewe.com. It is a relatively new social media. It's like Facebook without the ads and all that. So definitely check that out if that's something you're interested in. And of course, we're on there just to do a search for Fellowship of the Geeks. And wherever you download our podcast, we would greatly appreciate it if you take a couple moments and rate and review our shows. Thank you. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
No, just thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate you listening.
Thank you once again for listening, everybody. We do appreciate your support. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,